The house at 112 Willow Street was old and imposing, but it was my home. It was the place where I should have felt safe, but it was here that I met the creature on the wall, and my life became a waking nightmare. My name is Lily, and I was only 8 years old when it happened. My parents had always said that the creaks and whispers in the house were just the sounds of an old building settling, but I knew better. There was something in the walls, something that watched me with cold, hungry eyes. One fateful night, I awoke to a sound that chilled me to my core. It was a soft, raspy whisper like a sigh of the wind, but it had words. Words that slithered into my ears and filled my head with dread.
"Hello, little one,"
it hissed.
"I've been waiting for you."
I turned to see a dark figure barely visible in the moonlight, perched on the wall at the foot of my bed. Its eyes were twin orbs of malevolence, and its grin, oh, that grin was a twisted mockery of happiness. "Who are you?" I whimpered, my voice barely louder than a mouse's squeak.
"I am the Fear Eater,"
it replied, its voice dripping with malice. "And I have come to feast on your fear." I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The Fear Eater leaned closer, its icy breath caressing my face. It whispered my deepest fears, each word carving into my soul like a knife. My nightmares took shape before my eyes. The walls of my room closed in on me, and I was trapped in a suffocating darkness. The Fear Eater reveled in my terror, feeding on it like a glutton at a feast. Night after night, it returned, and each night my fear grew. My parents couldn't hear my pleas. They couldn't see the creature that tormented me. I was alone in my terror. But then, I remembered something my grandmother had once told me. She had said that courage was the greatest weapon against fear. I didn't know if it would work, but I had to try. One night, as the Fear Eater whispered its horrors, I summoned all the courage I could muster. I shouted, "You're not real. You can't hurt me." For a moment, the creature hesitated, its eyes flickering. It seemed almost surprised by my defiance. But then, it snarled and lunged at me, its bony fingers reaching for my throat. I closed my eyes and repeated my grandmother's words in my mind. "Courage is the greatest weapon against fear." To my astonishment, the creature faltered. It recoiled as if struck by an invisible force, its snarls turning into agonized cries. It was as if my defiance had wounded it. With a final burst of courage, I shouted the words again, this time with even more conviction. "You're not real." The creature let out a deafening screech, and then it was gone. Vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a lingering sense of dread. I had done it. I had banished the Fear Eater, and my room was bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight once more. I was free, but the victory came at a cost. The fear that the creature had instilled in me lingered, haunting my dreams. I couldn't escape the memories of those long nights of terror. As the years passed, I grew stronger, but the scars remained. The fear had left its mark on me, and I could never truly escape it. I had defeated the creature on the wall, but it had taken something from me that I could never get back: my innocence. Now, as an adult, I look back on that dark chapter of my life with a heavy heart. I had faced the embodiment of fear itself and survived, but the price had been high. The fear may have left my room, but it had never truly left me. It was a sad ending to a terrifying ordeal, one that I would carry with me for the rest of my days. In a quaint, centuries-old house nestled deep within the woods, little Emily had always felt an eerie presence. Her parents brushed it off as childish imagination, but she knew better. Every night, as the world outside plunged into darkness, the creature on the wall would come alive. Emily named it the Shadow Wall. It was a grotesque being, a silhouette that seemed to be stitched together from the shadows themselves. Its limbs stretched unnaturally long, and its eyes glowed with malevolent hunger. But what terrified Emily the most was the sinister grin that played on its dark, featureless face. The creature thrived on fear, and Emily was its perfect prey. As the night descended, the shadow wall would slither off its perch and inch closer to Emily's bed. Its presence filled the room with a chilling aura, sending shivers down her spine. The first time it happened, Emily couldn't move, paralyzed by fear. She watched helplessly as it whispered chilling promises, ones that sent terror coursing through her veins. Its words clawed at her mind, dredging up her deepest fears. Emily's nightmares materialized before her, and the shadow wall feasted on her torment. Night after night, Emily's life became a living nightmare. The creature grew stronger with each passing day, its hunger insatiable. The more she feared it, the more it reveled in her terror. Her parents, oblivious to her nightly torment, saw only a tired and fearful child. Desperation gripped Emily's heart. She needed to find a way to escape the clutches of the shadow wall. Researching ancient tomes and old folklore, she discovered a glimmer of hope, a forgotten ritual that could banish creatures like the shadow wall back to the dark corners of the world. One moonless night, she gathered the necessary ingredients, herbs, candles, and a charm passed down through generations. With trembling hands, she chanted the incantation. The room filled with an otherworldly glow, and the shadow wall screeched in agony. But it fought back with newfound ferocity, its grip on her mind tightening. Emily's fear surged, threatening to overwhelm her. She felt the darkness closing in, ready to consume her whole. But then, she remembered something she had almost forgotten: hope. Drawing strength from the love for her family and her determination to be free, Emily pushed back against the fear. With a final burst of courage, she completed the ritual, banishing the shadow wall back to the wall from whence it came. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Emily could breathe freely. The room was bathed in soothing moonlight, and the weight of fear lifted from her heart. But she knew the battle was far from over. As the shadow wall retreated to its perch, it shot her a venomous look filled with hatred. Emily knew that it would return one day, hungry for vengeance. But for now, she had earned herself a respite, and that was enough. Weeks turned into months, and the memory of the shadow wall faded, replaced by the warmth of family and the comfort of her own bed. Emily grew stronger, both in body and spirit. She had faced her greatest fear and survived. One stormy night, as rain lashed against the windows, Emily heard a familiar whisper. The shadow wall was back, as malevolent as ever. It had bided its time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But something had changed in Emily. She was no longer the helpless child it had preyed upon. With unwavering resolve, she faced the creature that had haunted her for so long. The fear it sought to instill found no purchase in her heart. In a climactic battle of wills, Emily stood her ground. The creature writhed in frustration, unable to feed on her fear. With a final incantation, she banished the shadow wall once and for all. It shrieked and disintegrated into a wisp of smoke, vanishing into the night. Emily had triumphed over the creature that had tormented her for so long, but victory came at a price. The fear it had sown in her heart had taken a toll. She had grown up too fast, robbed of the innocence of childhood. As Emily stood victorious in her darkened room, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. The creature was gone, but so was her childhood. The price of her freedom was the loss of her innocence, a bittersweet ending to a terrifying ordeal. With a heavy heart, she turned away from the wall, leaving behind the memories of fear and darkness. Emily had faced her deepest fears and emerged stronger, but she would never forget the price she had paid to reclaim her life from the shadow wall. Once, in a quiet town nestled deep within a forest shrouded in perpetual twilight, there stood an old, decrepit house. It was known as the Mercer Residence, a place whispered about in hushed tones around campfires and in late-night conversations. Its walls seemed to sag under the weight of age, and its windows glistened with an eerie, perpetual frost. The story began when a family of 4, the Carvers, moved into the house. John, a hard-working man, hoped to provide his family with a better life. His wife, Emily, was an artist with a gentle spirit, and their 2 children, Sarah and Michael, were bright-eyed, full of curiosity. As they settled into their new home, strange occurrences began. Scratches on the walls appeared overnight, and whispers echoed through the corridors. The children started having terrible nightmares, waking up in cold sweats, unable to recall the horrors that had plagued their sleep. One evening, Sarah ventured into the attic, drawn by an unseen force. She discovered a curious diary, its pages filled with cryptic drawings and entries in a language she couldn't decipher. Unbeknownst to her, this diary belonged to Amelia Mercer, the last resident of the house who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. As Sarah perused the diary, the entity that dwelled within the walls awakened. It was a sinister creature, a conglomeration of shadows and malice that thrived on fear and fed on the dreams of the innocent. It had been imprisoned within the house for centuries, and now, with Sarah's discovery, it saw an opportunity for escape. Each night, the creature grew stronger, tormenting the carvers with nightmarish visions. Emily's once vibrant artwork turned into macabre depictions of despair. Michael's laughter turned into tears, and John found himself powerless to protect his family. Sarah, however, was strangely immune to the creature's torment. She became obsessed with deciphering the diary, believing it held the key to saving her family. She spent hours in the attic, poring over its pages, trying to unlock its secrets. As the nights grew longer, the creature's influence spread beyond the Mercer residence. The once peaceful town became shrouded in darkness, its residents plagued by unspeakable nightmares. They began to avoid the house, believing it to be cursed. One fateful night, Sarah finally deciphered a passage in the diary, revealing a ritual that could bind the creature once more. She convinced her family to perform the ritual, desperate to end their suffering. They gathered in the attic, following the instructions meticulously, drawing a circle of protection and reciting incantations that had not been spoken in centuries. The house trembled as the creature fought to maintain its grip on their fears. It unleashed a torrent of nightmarish visions, trying to break their resolve. But the carvers stood strong, fueled by their love for each other. As they completed the ritual, a blinding light erupted from the attic, searing through the darkness. The creature howled in agony as it was pulled back into the walls, its power diminishing with each passing moment. With a final, desperate scream, it vanished, leaving behind only silence. The Mercer residence was never the same again. The frost on the windows melted away, and the scratches on the walls disappeared. The town slowly returned to normal, the nightmares that had plagued its residents fading into distant memories. The Carver family, forever changed by their ordeal, found solace in each other's arms. They had faced the darkest of horrors and emerged stronger together. In the end, it was their love and unity that had banished the nightmare weaver from their lives. But the Mercer residence would always be a place of whispered legends and cautionary tales, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk within even the most ordinary-seeming walls.